So as of the time I'm recording this video, we are almost 48 hours removed from the 2021 NHL trade deadline. I've had a lot of time now to really collect my thoughts and form my final opinions on a lot of the trades that happened. With that being said, in today's video, I want to go over which teams, in my opinion, were the biggest winners and the biggest losers from the deadline. Just to quickly clarify, I'm not just focusing on the deadline day that teams had. I'm obviously including the days leading up to the deadline because that's when a lot of the trades happened. So pretty much I'm factoring in what teams did from the beginning of April up until the April 12th deadline. We're going to dive into 6 teams in this video, 3 of which I think are winners, 3 of which I think are losers. But before we do that, I want to give a couple of honorable mentions. First, honorable mentions for losers. The Arizona Coyotes, I really think they should have sold. They have upcoming UFA defensemen like Nick Hjalmarsson, Alex Goligoski, Jordan Oesterle, Jason Demers, even a forward like Derek Brassard. I feel like they should have at least tried to get something for a couple of those guys. Yes, the Coyotes are still in the thick of a playoff race, but even if they do make the playoffs, does anyone deem them an actual threat to not even just win the cup, but to come out of that division? I don't think so. Another honorable mention for a loser, the Anaheim Ducks, sort of the exact same reason as to why I had Arizona as an honorable mention. There was so much talk about Rickard Rakell and Josh Manson leading up to the deadline and how they could fetch the Ducks a big return, and they didn't move either of them. Now, in terms of honorable mentions for winners, I really like what the Blackhawks did. I think they got a great return for Matthias Janmark. They utilized their cap space, taking on the Connolly contract to get Stillman and Borgstrom. And I'll give an honorable mention to the Red Wings because the more I think about it, the more I love the return they got for Anthony Mantha. So I think they had a pretty good deadline. So those are my honorable mentions. Now, before we get into today's video, of course, if you guys would like to stay connected outside of YouTube, you can go ahead and follow my social medias like Instagram and Twitter. The links to those will be down below in the description. The option to become a member is there. If you become a member, you'll gain access to exclusive perks like getting a badge next to your name whenever you comment on any of the channel's videos or posts. New members get a shout out at the end of a video, and you'll be able to join the member-only Discord server. And finally, and most importantly, if this is your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And now with all that out of the way, let's take a look at which teams, in my opinion, were the biggest winners and the biggest losers from the 2021 NHL trade deadline. Starting off on a positive note here with one of my winners, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, just look at this graphic. No team was busier at or around the deadline than the Leafs were. They made a lot of moves. I think we can confidently say they are completely all in. They are going for it this year. Additions include Riley Nash, Nick Foligno, Dave Riddick, Ben Hutton, Stefan Noesen, and Antti Suomela. Subtractions: a 2021 first, 22 fourth, 22 third, 22 fifth, 22 seventh, which is conditional, could become a 6th, that was a part of the Riley Nash deal, and a 2021 4th and Alexander Barabanov. Now, did the Leafs overpay on all of these trades? I would say only on Nick Foligno, giving up a 1st and I believe a couple of 4th round picks for him and Stefan Noesen. Am I saying that right, by the way? Noesen? Let me know down below in the comment section. Anyways, getting back to my point, yes, the Leafs did certainly overpay for Nick Foligno and what he is at this stage of his career, but that's what the deadline is. Teams that go all in on rentals, they usually overpay. Look at Tampa last year with Coleman and Goudreau. They gave up a 1st for both of those guys. And even Tampa Bay again this year with David Savard. I think Nick Foligno is going to be a great addition for the Leafs, though. That is a guy you can literally play on any line, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. He can kill penalties. He can play on the power play. He's a veteran with a lot of experience. He's a glue guy. He's the type of guy you want on your team in the playoffs. He's annoying to play against in the playoffs, and the Leafs know all about that from the 2020 play-ins. Now, if the Leafs get bounced in the 1st round again, then it's a different story, and obviously this deadline was an epic fail for them. However, until that happens, I'm going to defend this deadline by the Leafs, especially this Nick Foligno trade. I mean, this is how you go all in. Again, look at the graphic. They literally didn't take a player off of their roster unless you count Alexander Barabanov, and I don't. He's played, 13 games for the Leafs this season. He wasn't a regular for them. Leading up to the deadline, there was so much talk about Alex Kerfoot and how he was probably on his way out given his cap hit, and the Leafs would probably have to send some money the other way if they want to make a big splash. And yet they were able to keep Kerfoot, who I do think is an important player for the Leafs, and they were still able to make a big splash, which I think is a huge W. Kyle Dubas made this team better, again, without really taking anyone out of the lineup with the exception of Barabanov. He made the team deeper, and he got the Leafs some insurance in net, acquiring Dave Riddick with Freddie Anderson on the injured reserve. Next up, let's take a look at one of my losers of the deadline, and that is the Winnipeg Jets. Their additions: Jordy Ben. Their subtractions: a 2021 6th round pick. That's literally it. If I was a Winnipeg Jets fan, I would be pretty disappointed by this. They have been in the second place spot in the North Division for a lot of this season. In my opinion, they are the second best team in the North behind the Maple Leafs. And now after the deadline, that gap between the Leafs and the Jets is bigger now. The Leafs got better. The Jets, I mean, not really yet. Like, Jordy Ben, does he really make them better? I don't think he makes them worse either. It's kind of just an extra guy back there on the blue line. And even a team like the Montreal Canadiens, who are chasing the Jets, they didn't do anything crazy at the deadline, but they added guys. They got Eric Gustafsson, they got John Merrill, they added Eric Stahl from Buffalo, even though that was a while ago. It was before April. I just think the Jets missed out on a lot of opportunity here to make their team better and bolster their lineup heading into the playoffs. Now you might be saying, well, the Jets didn't have any cap space at all. Yeah, neither did the Tampa Bay Lightning. Neither did the Vegas Golden Knights. The Leafs didn't have much cap space. You make it work. The Winnipeg Jets are a team with the assets to pull off trades. They have their first, second, and third round picks in the next two drafts, and they also have Columbus's third round pick in the 2022 draft. They have a young guy in Christian Vesalainen, who was a former first round pick, I believe in 2017. He's been in and out of the lineup. That's a guy you can look at moving. I think the Jets should have done more. I think they should have been a lot more aggressive, and they sort of just did nothing besides getting Jordy Ben. I mean, I hope he plays well in Winnipeg, but that's not a needle mover whatsoever. Moving along now to another one of my winners, the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think they had an amazing deadline, all things considered, for a team that was selling, for a team that's not going to be anywhere near the playoffs. Getting a first round pick for both Nick Foligno and David Savard, you can't really ask for much more than that. In total, the Blue Jackets added two 2021 first round picks, a 2022 third, a 2022 fourth, and a conditional 2022 seventh that could become a sixth, and their subtractions: Nick Foligno, David Savard, and Riley Nash. So the Blue Jackets now have three first-round picks in this upcoming draft, which gives them a lot of possibilities. They could obviously draft a player with all three picks, or they could package a couple of them together to move up in the draft or something like that. The Blue Jackets are a team with, I would say, a pretty weak prospect pool outside of Marchenko and Chinnikov, so three first-round picks could do wonders for the future of the Blue Jackets. And I brought this up in my deadline review video, the possibility of Nick Foligno just re-signing with the Columbus Blue Jackets in the offseason. That is something I could definitely see happening. He was obviously the Blue Jackets captain. His family is still staying in Ohio, so again, if the Leafs don't show interest in re-signing him, I don't even know if they could if they wanted to. I think him returning to Columbus is a real possibility, and if he does, that just makes this deadline look even better for the Blue Jackets. They basically said, here Toronto, you can rent our captain for a couple of months, in exchange give us a first and a fourth. Continuing on now to another one of my losers, I have the Buffalo Sabres. I've said this a lot this season, but I really am sorry, Sabres fans. I'm not trying to drag this team through the dirt and completely bash on them, kick them while they're down. The Sabres additions of the deadline include Andres Bjork and a second and third in 2021. The subtractions: Taylor Hall and Brandon Montour. And remember, I'm not including the Stahl trade here because that happened before the month of April. I'm completely fine with the Sabres getting a third round pick for Brandon Montour. I actually think that's pretty solid considering he's been awful since getting to Buffalo and really wasn't the greatest in his ending stretch with the Ducks either. But that Taylor Hall trade, man, the more I think about it, the more I really just can't wrap my brain around the fact that Sam Bennett fetched a better return than Taylor Hall. I actually seen somebody on Twitter say that Sam Bennett is a better and more valuable player than Taylor Hall at this point, and that's just completely wrong. Now, in the Buffalo Sabres defense, in Kevin Adams' defense, his hands were kind of tied when it came to trading Taylor Hall, but that is also kind of his own fault for giving Taylor Hall a full no-move clause when he signed him to that one-year, $8 million contract. I would bet a lot of money on the fact that the Sabres probably had a better offer out there for Taylor Hall other than the one they got from Boston, but Taylor Hall wouldn't waive his no-move to go to that team. It sounded like he really wanted to become a Boston Bruin, and in that situation, you have no leverage whatsoever if you're the Buffalo Sabres. That's a tough spot for a rookie GM like Kevin Adams to be in. So even though I do kind of feel bad and there's not really a whole lot Buffalo could have done in that situation, they still only got Andres Bjork in a second round pick, which is completely awful when, you look at the return a guy like Sam Bennett got, even Matthias Janmark, Nick Foligno. Another thing I didn't like about the Sabres deadline is the fact that they held on to goaltender Linus Ullmark, who is one of the few players on the Buffalo Sabres who probably has a decent amount of value because he's actually playing well for Buffalo in net, which is impressive. Ullmark is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Again, the Sabres decided to hold on to him, and now Ullmark has all the leverage in the world over the Sabres. When it comes time for them to negotiate a new contract, Ullmark can set his price sky high and say, Buffalo, if you don't give me this, then I'm leaving in free agency and you got no compensation. Now again, kind of defending the Sabres again here a little bit, there really didn't seem to be much of a market for goaltenders at all. We all expected Bernier to get dealt. He didn't. The only goaltenders that were traded were Dave Riddick and Devin Dubnyk. Also, Tampa Bay traded a goaltending prospect, but that doesn't count. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but if the Sabres do lose Ullmark for nothing, that's the definition of kicking somebody while they're down. Moving on now to my final winner of the video, the Buffalo Sabres, the team that was on the other end of the Taylor Hall trade. The Sabres additions include Taylor Hall, Curtis Lazar, Mike Riley, and their subtractions, Anders Bjork, a 2021 second, and a 2022 third. Obviously, they got a great deal on Hall, right? But I also do really like the addition of Mike Riley, and I think that was an important pickup for the Bruins, especially with all the injuries they've sustained to their blue line this season. Like a week or so ago, I think I saw the lineup tweeted out of the Boston Bruins, their D-core it was, and I swear like at least 4 or 5 of the blue liners that were in the lineup that game were just fake creative players. So Mike Riley should definitely be a welcome addition for the Sabres. And now getting back to Taylor Hall, I know a lot of people like to call Taylor Hall washed, and he's definitely not the player he was in, his MVP season in New Jersey, but he's still an elite winger. He's an elite play-driving winger. He's an elite playmaker. I mean, he did lead the Buffalo Sabres in assists with 17, and I mean, 17 assists on this year's Buffalo Sabres. Those assists were probably a lot harder to come by than we may think. The thing with Hall, obviously, this season especially, has been he just cannot finish for the life of him, and Hall has never been a player with some crazy snapshot, slapshot, or wrist shot. He's a playmaker. He's been that way through his whole career pretty much, but this year especially, like, he could not shoot a puck in the ocean. So we'll see if Taylor Hall can up his goal totals and up his finishing in Boston. Even if he doesn't, he's still a great playmaker, and he's gonna make Boston a better team, and at the very least, he's better than Sam Bennett and Matthias Janmark, and I don't want to hear otherwise. And now for my final loser of the 2021 NHL trade deadline, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. Additions, Yanni Hakanpää and a 2022 6th round pick. Subtractions, Hayden Fleury. That was the only trade that the Carolina Hurricanes made. Now, is that a trade that made the Hurricanes better? I don't think so. I prefer Fleury significantly more than Hakanpää, but I don't think it's a trade that's gonna, make the Carolina Hurricanes significantly worse. They probably won't even notice it. But the reason that I think this was such an L of a deadline for the Hurricanes is because you look around at other teams in the Central Division, the other top 2 teams in the Central Division in Florida and Tampa Bay, they both added a lot at the deadline, and Carolina pretty much didn't do anything. I am a fan of the Hurricanes. I think they're a great team. I predicted them to come first place in the Central Division before the season started, but I think they missed an opportunity staying quiet at the deadline. If you thought Carolina was a better team than Florida, well, it's closer now after the deadline. If you thought there was a gap between the Lightning and Hurricanes in terms of Tampa Bay still having the edge over Carolina, well, that gap is even bigger now. And like I said when talking about the Jets, Carolina is a team with the assets to pull off a trade. They also have a little bit of cap space. They have pretty much all of their draft picks for the next 3 drafts. They have a guy like Jake Bean who's currently on the taxi squad, and I'm sure a lot of teams would be interested in. And yet Carolina didn't do pretty much anything of significance. They're still a good team. I think they are still a team that is a threat to come out of the Central Division. The most important thing at this point, I'd say, for Carolina is for Teuvo Teravainen to just get healthy, because they need him back. So I guess we'll have to wait and see over the next couple of months. We'll find out if I was right or wrong to criticize Carolina for basically standing pat at the deadline. They got a tough road ahead of them though, because no matter what, they got to go through Tampa Bay. So that is going to wrap up today's video. Those were, in my opinion, the 3 biggest winners and 3 biggest losers from the 2021 NHL trade deadline, with some honorable mentions. If there were any teams that I did not talk about in today's video that you think did really well at the deadline or did really bad at the deadline, be sure to let me know down below in the comment section. And of course, if you guys did enjoy today's video, please be sure to leave it a like. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all in the next video.